Alright, I'm back. You know what, I'm still a little hot, I'm still angry about it, but I'm just gonna try and keep composure, because there's still a possibility we can get this without a bad ending, but I just want to understand that if I do get a bad ending because of that nonsense, it will not be my fault. Like, if we game over, and then I take 3 points of damage that are legit after that, fair enough, I earned a bad ending. But that was not my fault. And I will die on this hill. If you say they were the only one to pass through at the time of the crime, I'm trusting that you looked through those 2 hours. You can't just say, oh, actually, never mind, there was someone else within that same 2 hour span that we're indicating as the time of the crime. That's just mean. That's just mean and bullying, and I'm moving on. Now, can you see it? There's a slash I made with the utility knife that day. And I'm sure that knife is under that jacket somewhere. So then, everything Miss Cykes said... Exactly, it proves that Miss Cykes' memory was correct. Dr. Cykes' killer arrived at the robotics lab before 2 p.m. Also interesting, this is the first time they had us do one of those go into Phoenix's mind things without it actually being the end of the case. He killed her and hit her face with a handkerchief. Then he disguised himself with Dr. Cykes' jacket and mask which, that were there in the lab. Oh, sorry, this isn't Blackwell's coat, it's the acid coat. I wasn't looking at it carefully before. The culprit probably knew beforehand that Ponko charged up at 2 p.m. every day. So he waited for Ponko to come to the lab for her regular recharge. By leaving Dr. Cykes' jacket on, the culprit tricked Ponko into thinking he was Dr. Sykes, thereby making it look like she was alive up to that point in time. All to disguise the real time of death. Objection. Right. Right, you took so long on that security footage solve. It's a nice theory, Mr. Wright, but I'm afraid it's just not possible. What? Why not? The victim's jacket is clearly visible right there in this video. And that right there is precisely the problem. The ID tag on the jacket at the scene confirms beyond doubt that it belonged to the victim. If the person who left the lab truly was wearing the victim's jacket, then how could it possibly have wound up back at the crime scene? His and Taryn's had a slash in it. The killer just brought it back later. She had a spare? I don't know. I feel like there are a few explanations for this. What's going on? That doesn't make sense. Edward's right. If the culprit was wearing the jacket, how did it get back to the lab? Oh my god. See, this would have been a great thing to have full health for, game. The culprit was wearing the jacket. How did it get back to the lab? So, Metis brought it back? Unlikely. Athena brought it back? Unlikely. The killer brought it back? Only explanation if they had it, right? I mean, okay. Like, again, they might be pulling some nonsense on here where they're just bold-facedly lying to us, but it does say the victim's staff jacket was found nearby. And with all the other stuff we proved, if Athena stabbed someone that wasn't her mother, then they had to have been wearing the victim's, Metis' jacket. Because that's the only way Ponko would have mistaken them. So we have both the game, once again, telling us the fact that this is the victim's jacket on the ground, and showing us the fact that, well, it doesn't show us now, but that the jacket left the scene in the hands of the killer. I highly doubt Metis brought it back. I can't imagine why Athena would have brought it back and then just thrown it on the floor face down in such a particular way that you couldn't see the slash. Killer brought it back. The killer used the jacket as a disguise to make his escape, but in order to conceal that fact, he had to get the jacket back to the crime scene. So the culprit simply returned to the robotics lab later and planted it there. Contradiction resolved. Objection! Except that it would have been impossible. The only people who came to the robotics lab after the killer were Prosecutor Blackwell and the people who reported the body. So the killer is one of them? Oh, you're saying in between the time when the photograph was taken, I see. And they claimed that the jacket was there when they arrived. So, when do you propose this mysterious man of yours had the chance to return the jacket? A puzzling question indeed. When did the culprit have the chance of returning that jacket back? At the time of the murder, when the body was found, because they were the journalist. The only time the culprit could have returned the jacket was when the body was found. Mr. Wright, do you realize the implication of that argument? I do. Most people, when they come across a murder, focus their attention on the body. The culprit could have taken advantage of that split second to plant the jacket. Well, I was thinking more like the journalist who came back to photograph it planted the jacket, but... In other words, the true culprit of this case, the man known as the Phantom, was one of the first people to discover the body. Okay, we're on the same page then. I would never have thought of that. I would, if the game would have let me ignore that stupid security camera one. Order in the court. What is the meaning of this, Prosecutor Edgeworth? The body was discovered and reported by a group of 3 people. They were there to collect the space probe's capsule in the preparation for the Hat 1 launch. One of those people had a special bag to transport the capsule in, which is what Apollo was thinking about. Oh, you mean the shock-resistant bag? Correct. I suppose that if the jacket was in that bag, it could have been returned to the scene of the crime without anyone noticing. I'll see to it that you get the reports on those 3 people. You will? We should also check the facial recognition database for that robot. If this person felt the need to hide his face with the theater mask, it might mean that his facial data was once registered, i.e. someone who worked there. Prosecutor Edgeworth? Does this mean... I have to admit, I believe Miss Cykes' memories to be credible. You win, Wright. Not that this was ever an official trial, anyway. Do my ears deceive me? Prosecutor Edgeworth, are you actually conceding? Conceding that Athena's innocent. Please tell me that gets our health back, now that we're swapping to some different aspect of this case? Or is Aura gonna hold us again? Is it true, boss? Does this mean I can't believe it. It's over. I won. Oh, come on, the Phoenix. It's much too early in the case for that. I proved that both Athena and Prosecutor Blackwell are innocent. Your Honor, I see no need to further prolong this trial. Objection! Hold on, Mr. Wright. Have you forgotten who's in charge of this trial? That would be Aura. That's right! I'm the one who's supposed to say I know see the end of the prolong... Not you either, Your Honor. Now silence. The little princess who was truly beloved by medicine, who repaid that love with death. All these years, heading Athena was the only thing that's kept me going. But what do I do now? Can anybody tell me? How am I supposed to go on? Miss Blackwell. How unlike Aura. Metis was deeply passionate about her work, and she chose you as her partner. Isn't that— Shut up, Simon! You know exactly how I felt about her. Her respect as a co-worker wasn't all that I wanted. Then what did you want from her? Did you really just go there, Your Honor? Or there is something I've wanted to say if you will lend me an ear. I have in my possession a lead on who Metis' murderer is. You do? Right, don't know. You asked me about the identity of the Phantom of 7 years past. By the way, can I just throw out here, if we don't get our health back here, a bunch of nonsense, because everyone's totally on our side and agrees that we didn't bluff, we didn't fake, we weren't faking this whole thing. We were desperately actually trying to prove the truth, and we're right. So can we get that faith bar restored to max, please? Right, don't know. You asked me about the identity of the Phantom of 7 years past. That's right. The Phantom. The person Blackwell's been looking for, even from behind bars. 7 years ago, somebody hatched a plan to sabotage the Hat-1 rocket. A spy. But he was no ordinary spy. We knew naught about him, his background, appearance. We came to refer to him as the Phantom. Ooh, this is new and dramatic music, isn't it? At the time, I was working with the police to hunt him down, and then one day a miracle occurred and I obtained a lead on him. Oh, how exciting! What was the lead? A recording of the Phantom's voice, but the quality was too poor for proper voice analysis. Apparently, if you just analyze it for like a day and a half, you just learn who it was immediately. Apparently, is what we've learned, so... just analyze it now. Yet I had hope. Hora's co-worker was a scientist who could analyze human emotions. So I asked her to evaluate the recording using analytical psychology. And that scientist was Dr. Cykes. Wait, but weren't you chasing the Phantom because he killed Cykes? Or are you saying that you already knew about his plan to sabotage the rocket? Somehow you caught wind of it, they warned you or something, so you were trying to hunt him down even before he killed Miss Metis. And that scientist was Dr. Cykes. Yes, a spy's greatest fear is to have his true identity discovered. In addition to Hat-1, Dr. Cykes' results and the recording were surely among his targets. But his search of the Space Center bore no fruit, so he must have started to panic. He couldn't find him. But where could they have beaten? Who is to say? Wow, I bet he's never let that out of his sight all these years. How in the world did you smuggle them into prison? You really don't want to know the answer to that one. Oh, I have my ways. What's more, my partner is especially talented at that sort of thing. Oh, sure, well, yeah, you have a bird. I did forget about that. I worked to lure the Phantom in by spreading rumors throughout the underworld. I was even granted permission to prosecute cases to attract the Phantom's attention. Just try to retrieve your identity, you bloody butcher, became my taunt. And what about the results Dr. Cykes drew up for you? Were there any useful information? Yeah, you can see for yourself, but take good care of it. It's all I have left of my mentor. I will. Better hold on to this real tight. Although it makes me a target for murder now, which isn't awesome. Pindham's psych profile, the subject's emotions rarely fluctuate and he doesn't experience feelings like normal people do. Meaning he's like a robot? That's a little weird. And unsettling. Psychological profile, classified. Emotional, great job just writing classified on it. Emotional output of this voice extremely weak compared to typical voices. Whoa. Subject deemed to have unique psychological makeup with almost no emotional fluctuation. I don't like the way this is leaning back towards Athena. No emotional fluctuation, huh? Well, no, she didn't have no emotional fluctuation. She had overt emotional fluctuation. A spy who experiences no emotions, not sadness nor anger, and naturally no fear. Here's the very definition of a phantom, a monster with no heart. Don't you see? You just said he panicked, though. This creature is the rot that destroyed our lives and set what ails us all into motion. The Phantom indeed, a fitting name for the one who has brought darkness to our world. Well then, it seems a faint image of this man has started to take shape. Based on what we have learned, I'd like all of you to conduct further investigation. This is not a formal trial, but I do want to follow protocol. If I may, I'd like to hand out my verdict and bring these proceedings to an end. Whatever. Do what you want. You'll hear no objections from me? Yes, please, Your Honor. Does that mean we get to end for today and I get my health back? I hope so. It's over. It's finally over. No. Not till we found the killer. We have to investigate further, and Blackwell's still going to be executed tomorrow, unless we're counting this retrial, without finding the actual killer. Very well. In that case, Prosecutor Blackwell, could you please take the stand? As a result of this trial, your innocence has been proven. The verdict handed down 7 years ago is hereby overturned. And now, the defendant of the current trial, Miss Athena Cykes. Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Wright, thank you. Thank you for everything. Athena, you're more than welcome. If everyone is ready, I will now give my verdict. Objection! Guessing it's alright, but I could be wrong. You... Objection! Apollo! What is the meaning of this? Congratulations, Mr. Wright and Prosecutor Edgeworth. You uncovered the truth from 7 years ago and you saved Prosecutor Blackwell. However, I can't allow this trial to end just yet. Why not? Why, Apollo? Why would you do this to us? Is it going to say to be continued? Yes, it is. That was an incredibly long fade, but it is indeed. I can't remember if it's part 2 in the middle means you get your health back. I sure hope it does. Trial day 1 now is going to trial day 1 part 2. Oh, it doesn't even say part 2. You just assume it's part 2. All right. Now that we've got to do a part 2 here, I imagine we won't go to a day 2 with this. I guess it's happened before that you have 2 parts of a trial day 1, and then another, and then you get to day 2. I can't remember. Probably it has happened. December 20th, Court District Court, Department number 4. What's the plan here, Polly? Polly-o? Polly Powell? Mr. Justice, please explain yourself. It's very simple. There isn't much to explain. Now that we've got all this other stuff with the Phantom, it seems unlikely that it was Terran. I think that was a wild goose chase in my brain. Subject's emotions rarely fluctuate and doesn't experience feelings that normal people do. This is maybe supposed to tell us that they're a robot, or it's supposed to tell us that the robots would have trouble reading him or something. And even though we were just taking Athena's word for it before that it was a man, the profile just does say he, so I think we can be confident about that. It's very simple. There isn't much to explain. The defendant, Miss Athena Cykes, might not be innocent. What are you talking about? The case from 7 years ago has been settled. I'm not talking about the past here. I'm talking about the present case. It's still not clear who killed Clay Terran. But, Apollo, why would you... Miss Cykes, please listen quietly to what I have to say. What in the world is Apollo trying to do? Your Honor, please allow me a little of the court's time. But, this is a trial for the case from 7 years ago? Miss Blackwell, I'd like to ask a favor of you. Just as you lost someone close to you, I lost someone close to me, too. I'm sure you want to know the real truth of what happened as much as I do. Apollo. Sure, you know, I'm all for the truth. Now let's see if you expose the princess's guilt. Judge, I give my permission. Continue with the trial. Very well. Is that all right with you, Prosecutor Edgeworth? The prosecution has no objections. That's the MS Justice's testimony. I'll have the police's investigation report brought immediately. Not you too, Edgeworth. I really hope it's because you have something up your sleeve. Very well. New opening statement, please, Prosecutor Edgeworth. As you wish. Let's review the case of the murder with Mr. Clay Terran. It was made clear in the previous trial that Solomon Starbuck was not the killer. Therefore, the true culprit was someone else. Yes, I figured we obviously wouldn't be getting off scot-free without addressing Athena being unconscious in the back of the Space Museum. On that day, this culprit waited for the astronauts in boarding lounge 1. When the two men made their escape out of the Space Museum, the killer attacked Mr. Terran with the same type of knife that was used 7 years ago. The murderer then escaped into the Space Museum. Next, Director Yuri Cosmo switched the launch pads. After that, the culprit exited the Space Museum and escaped via the boarding lounge too. Therefore, this trial must make clear who Mr. Terran's true killer was. In other words, we must discover who it was that escaped through the Space Museum that day. Thank you, Butcher Redworth. Mr. Wright, is the defense ready? Yes, Your Honor. I better rearrange my evidence. Well, then swapped into the court record. Oh, okay, so we're gonna get the lighter back and stuff. Oh my, oh yes. Okay, here's the bomb and everything again. I thought it was so weird we lost all that. Because we still have a few points we've not yet gotten to use, like, we haven't used Athena's earring for anything. We haven't used this piece of the moon rock in the bomb stuff for anything, which implies that it was in the courtroom when it was exploded one way or the other. And we haven't confirmed much about the lighter. Not to mention we didn't really cover any of this stuff with the launchpad lock. Well, then swapped into the court record. Okay, let's do this. Let's hang out. I'm really anxious to see my health bar and see if it's filled up again yet. I can't remember if that's how it works. Well then, Mr. Justice, your testimony, if you please. Let's hear it, Apollo, sorry. I shouldn't make you angry at this point. Apollo, Justice's accusation. I suspected Miss Cykes of the murder of Clay Terran. Oh yeah, we didn't have any upbeat testimony yet, so it would only make sense that we were nowhere close to the end. My growing suspicions were confirmed when the incriminating evidence presented itself. In addition, she's the only one who could have utilized the launchpad switch to escape. That is why I wish to indict Miss Cykes on the charge of murder. Yes, this is an appropriate time to be chattering, I think. You've done it at other times when it wasn't really necessary, but this is totally worth it. Order in the court! Mr. Justice, you realize you are charging your own co-worker with murder, don't you? Yes, Your Honor. Because that is the conclusion my investigation has led me to. I wonder if that's really true, or if this is somehow some kind of play to help us. Or if he's really just... that's all he could think about because he was so mad about Clay's death. But, Apollo! Why? How could you suspect me too? Mr. Wright, your cross-examination, please. I don't get it. Just what did you find out over the past few days to make you think this? I'm hurt, Apollo. I really am. Oh, God, I didn't refill our health. That's so mean. Okay, I suspected Miss Cykes of the murder of Clay Terran. My growing suspicions. It's a different trial. It's a very different murder. Can we please refill my health? My growing suspicions were confirmed when this incriminating evidence presented itself. This was the only one who could reveal his launchpad to escape. That's why I wish to indict Miss Cykes of the charge of murder. His points of contention are the fingerprints on the lighter and the escape route, huh? Paul knows how I operate, so I can't use my usual tactics on him. Looks like the only thing I can do here is press him for more information. Indeed! I was going to think about this more critically, but I like your plan better. Hold it! What first made you suspicious of Miss Cykes? It all started when Miss Cykes and I were investigating the crime scene. When she saw the weapon that killed Mr. Terran, my bracelet reacted. She said she'd never seen the knife before, but my bracelet told me otherwise. And then, every time after that, my bracelet would react when she talked about the case. Poor Paul must have been beside himself during that investigation. Hold on, then! So, is my crackpot theory from before actually holding some water here? That she did see this knife before because it was the one she used, in particular? Or is she just saying she's seen that makeup knife before? In which case, it puts more weight into let's investigate Clay's hand to see if he's got a scar on it. I mean, that said, we don't have the video picture anymore, do we? No. The skin tone looks pretty wildly different on the person in the security footage, but that's probably them just trying to lie and mislead you. I didn't know what to do or think. I couldn't even sleep. In that condition, I knew it wouldn't be any good in court, so I decided to wear an eye patch so I wouldn't be able to perceive or any of her tells. So that's why Apollo was acting so strangely. But the reason Miss Cykes unconsciously reacted to that knife that way is because she stabbed her mother's murder with the one identical to it 7 years ago. Objection! You're a witness, you don't get to object. But that knife was also the murder weapon that was used to kill Clay Terran. Her bracelet could have also reacted to her because she knew she was his killer, too. I guess he has a point. Except Gatama didn't react. Well, why don't you just have her... Oh, you still got the eye patch on. I was gonna say, why don't you just have her tell you to your face, I didn't kill Clay. Oh, but she doesn't remember either. Duh. No, but you can perceive a lie. If she doesn't know, then she's not lying. But Apollo will just turn around and say, well, she doesn't know she did it then. Fine, okay, whatever. My bracelet wasn't the only reason I became suspicious of her. Apollo, this is not the breaking in and helping us at the last minute that I was expecting from you. My growing suspicions were confirmed when the incriminating evidence presented itself. Hold it! Hold it! Whichever hold it I'm doing. That's the lighter that was found in the Space Museum with her fingerprints on it, right? But even if it seems decisive, there must be other facts we don't know about it yet. If that's so, go ahead and prove it then. Look, honestly, I don't want to believe it's true either, but Miss Cykes was the only one who was in the Space Museum at the time of the murder. But, Mr. Justice, Miss Cykes had absolutely no motive to kill Mr. Terran. Objection! 7 years ago, Miss Cykes lived at the Cosmos Space Center. It wouldn't be strange if she had some kind of connection to him. Besides, people sometimes kill for motives we can't even imagine. That's a pretty weak argument, Apollo. I know you've seen plenty of cases like that in your own career, Mr. Wright. I still can't believe this. How can you actually suspect Athena, Apollo? It is weird, isn't it? But it might be that this part 2 to this trial, day 1, isn't actually that long. Because we're already in upbeat tempo. She's the only one who could have utilized the launch pad switch to escape, according to... Hold it! Why? Isn't it possible that somebody else used that same escape route? I'm afraid not, Mr. Wright. Why not? Recall there's a security camera in boarding lounge 1 aimed at the launch pad door. It's the camera that captured Mr. Terran and Mr. Starbuck. But there's also another security camera in boarding lounge 2. Is this the evidence you found? It recorded Mr. Terran's killer, or rather Miss Cykes, coming out of the Space Museum. A camera in boarding lounge 2. First I've heard of it, but it makes sense. If only we had gone when I said we should have gone and made sure that the 2 boarding lounges were the same, huh? Athena said she snuck into the Space Museum the night before the incident, and then was overcome and passed out until around noon the next day. I was out until about noon the next day. I didn't even know about the explosions. When I woke up, nobody was around, so I just went out into boarding lounge 2. But the security camera is on the lounge itself, right? So it would have also captured anything that happened while the pads were switched. I swear to God, if they pull it a third time and they're like, yes, there's security footage of the actual killer coming out, but we just didn't give it to you and we said we gave you everything, I'm going to be livid. That must have been when the camera captured her. And that's what made Apollo suspect her even more, but wait a minute. In that case, it most likely recorded the true culprit as well. Objection! That's a negative on that one too, Mr. Wright. In the footage taken after the incident, Miss Cykes is the only one who appears. How could I possibly trust this game when it says that anymore, though? They've just outright lied about that before. What? Why? Order in the court! That can't be. But if it is, then it's incredibly incriminating. Submit it to the court, please. I'd like a look at it. Wasn't it you who proved in the previous trial that the way the true culprit escaped was via the Space Museum after the pads had been switched? A fact you previously proved, turning Donatia, leaving your client high and dry. I must say, this is vintage Phoenix Wright. How about getting that admitted to the evidence, the court, please? That's why I wish to indict Miss Cykes in the charge of murder. Hold it! Believing in your client to the end is a basic principle of good defense. Shouldn't you extend that same principle to your own co-worker? You're probably right. Maybe I'm not even fit to be a lawyer. However, I don't care. This case is special to me. Clay was my friend. And that's why I just have to know the truth. Paul suspected his trusted co-worker of killing his friend. To dispel his doubts, he investigated on his own, but that only led to more doubts. Apollo must have been really struggling with this. I think I see where you're going with this. He must have a lot of discord in his heart. Well, Apollo may have doubts, but I'll say it again. Athena Cykes isn't the murderer. Then I have only one thing to say. Evidence is everything in court. Well, Mr. Wright, think you have the concrete proof to knock down my arguments? Your arguments have been very clear, Mr. Justice, and then your facts appear to be indisputable. We haven't even seen this security footage. He could just be saying that. Well, Mr. Wright, what do you think of my theory? Looks like not even you can deny it. Miss Cykes was the only one who used the only possible escape route. Under these circumstances, there can be no other suspect but the defendant. Unless you think there was an alternative escape route. Is that what you think, Mr. Wright? The leaves we found would suggest as much. We don't really know if the structure of the building allows for one to exit out of the door while the things are rotating. But it would be the only way leaves would get in there, right? Is that what you think, Mr. Wright? Is that what you think, Phoenix? Was there an alternative escape route? Of course! Leaves! Yes, of course there must have been. Just don't ask me what. You're just bluffing again, aren't you? Me? Bluff? No way. You know me too well. It's fine, Mr. Wright. Even a bluff would suit me just fine. Wait, huh? Who said that? I thought it was Athena about to say it's fine. Even a bluff would suit me just fine. As long as you can clear up this doubt inside me. Wait, so is that what this is all about? I want to believe in Athena, I really do. What is faith without doubt? That's why I need to question her guilt. So that once the truth finally comes out, I can really fully trust her. Is that you can really trust me? It seems your junior partner has just showed us what trials truly are all about. I believe you're right. We prosecutors painstakingly question every detail in pursuit of the defendant. While we lawyers believe in and defend our clients to the end. When both sides go out against each other, that is when we discover the truth. Precisely. And when the battle's over, we understand the true meaning of trust. That is exactly what trials are about, wouldn't you agree? Yes. I couldn't ignore the seed of doubt that was growing inside me, so I decided I needed to face it head on. No matter what the truth is that's waiting ahead, I won't be afraid! It's so like Apollo. Always uber earnest about things like this. There's a nicer way to do it, though, Apollo. Mr. Justice, I vow to dispel every last bit of doubt in your heart. Good. Because I want to believe in Miss Cykes again. You're really hoping there was an alternative route, weren't you, Apollo? But if I use the process of elimination, there really aren't that many possibilities. Director Cosmos to the southern exit, leaving only the control room and the corridor to the Space Museum. Which door could the culprit have escaped through? Come on, Mr. Wright. Where do you think the culprit escapes to? Outside. I can't even move. Why can't I move the pointer? It won't let me move the mouse. Is this a bug or a feature? Oh, there we go. That was so weird. Oh, you're not supposed to click it on the hand. Oh, never mind. You are. Okay, that was weird. Okay. This is tricky. I think I'm about to get the bad ending here, because the only things that come to my mind, because we saw the leaves, right? They made a huge deal about that. We know there had to have been some other exit from the corridor. But it says, where did they escape to? And the phrasing is stupid. My theory is that I either have to just click Space Museum corridor or outside of there to show that they got out from the corridor. Oh, the control room! I didn't even look at that. I really only could have escaped to the corridor of the Space Museum, and all I had to do was use the unconscious Mr. Starbucks Prince to get through the door. Objection! It appears that all you're trying to establish is Miss Cykes' guilt. If the culprit used that route, the only exit would have been into Boarding Lounge 2. Except for the leaves that were found there. The logical conclusion of your argument is that the killer is none other than the defendant. I knew it! That's the only way it could be, huh? If the culprit escaped into the corridor that leads to the Space Museum, then I guess it's true. The only exit would have been into Boarding Lounge 2. But Miss Cykes was the only person captured by the Boarding Lounge 2 security camera. I investigated the crime scene thoroughly, but the only place the culprit could have escaped to was the Space Museum corridor. There weren't any other secret corridors or anything. So that leaves us with no other conclusion to draw but that Athena Cykes was the culprit. What could the answer be? Was there really no other escape route? But hold on a second. What if... Oh, thank God. Okay, I thought they were going to tell me I clicked it wrong, but we very clearly saw the leaves, right? Yeah, because the hallway folds in. So of course you'd be able to open the door and get out while it was moving. Where did those mysterious leaves we saw in the corridor come from? What if they're a clue to the culprit's real escape route? Oh my God, thank God. I thought I'd messed that up for a minute. I think it is possible that the culprit escaped from the Space Museum, but then came out using a route other than into Boarding Lounge 2. Huh? Launchpad 1 of the Space Museum were switched after the bombing, meaning the Space Museum corridor was moving along the rail at the time. Which is exactly when an alternative escape route opened up for our culprit. Are you kidding me? Judging by the intense look in your eyes, I take it you're serious. Very well then, Wright. Mr. Wright, do tell. Where could the culprit have gone from the museum corridor besides Boarding Lounge 2? I don't really understand where I'm supposed to click here. If it were moving here, he could have hopped out, right? Are we supposed to say to launch site? The answer is out of the corridor while it was moving. He very clearly just said that, right? But where do I point to for that? Why didn't they give me a drop-down list? I mean, it could have been anywhere along here. But I guess they want me to put it in the middle to the launch site? We found something odd while investigating the museum corridor this afternoon. Namely, a few dead leaves on the floor. Considering where dead leaves come from, they point us to exactly where the culprit escaped to. Yes, I remember seeing some leaves myself. Ah! Do you mean... Yep. While the Space Museum was in motion, just beyond the corridor's safety door, was an alternative place that the culprit could use to escape. In other words, the culprit's real escape route was... the track to the launch pad. The area outside the Space Center! Oh, thank God I was right about that theory all those episodes ago, how many that was. You're freaking insane! I'm not! Objection! Do you know how impossible that would be? That corridor is level with the 3rd floor! Even if the culprit tried to leap outside of the wall of the Space Center building, they would fall to their death! Not with the ladder out, they wouldn't. Objection! Ordinarily, yes, but after the bombing incident, the culprit could make use of a certain item. And what item was it exactly, Mr. Wright? Alright, this is what the culprit used to leap to the outside wall of the main building. Well, I don't know that they used it to leap to the wall exactly, but if it was from the 4th floor robotics lab, which is over here-ish, and they were over here, they jumped to the ladder, sure. Take that! An emergency ladder. But that doesn't look good for Black Aura, does it? There was an emergency ladder in the 4th floor robotics lab, and it was used that day after the explosions to help evacuate people. Miss Blackwell herself used that ladder to escape down to ground level. Recall that the launch pads were switched after the ladder was lowered. The corridor would have passed by the ladder where the pads were being switched. And that's when the culprit literally sprang into action. I had that theory before, but I hadn't realized that the hallways folded inward, which would make it much easier for there to actually be a gap there to jump. And leapt onto the ladder. What? Who would have imagined? I did. Way back on day 1 of this case. Order in the court! Well, an alternative escape route seems to have emerged. Which means someone other than Miss Cykes could have been the culprit, right? Objection. Making things up on the fly in an attempt to save the court again, are we, Mr. Wright? Well, there has so many holes to put Swiss cheese to shame. Gotta go for some Swiss cheese right now. Alright then, name one. I have here detailed information about the Space Center. According to this, the distance between this museum and the corridor and the main building during movement is a full 20 feet. Oh. 20 feet? You're pulling my leg, right? In addition, the corridor is 30 floors from the ground, or roughly 50 feet. What's more, the culprit would be leaping into a precarious place, an unstable ladder. If they had no fear, it wouldn't be a problem for them, would it? Human beings feel fear in dangerous situations. Ah, gotcha! It's a basic survival instinct. An ordinary person would certainly hesitate before jumping. Or even freeze in fear and not jump at all. Objection! But the culprit had just murdered someone. They weren't in an ordinary state of mind. Objection. Nevertheless, why would they have taken to that kind of risk? They could have waited for the switch to be complete and escaped to boarding lounge 2. Objection! Because there was a security camera in boarding lounge 2. The culprit knew they would be recorded if they left the Space Museum that way. Objection! In that case, the culprit could have hidden this museum until things settled down, and then blended in with the other people after the museum was opened. That's a good point. But you claim that despite all this, the culprit took a 20-foot death-defying leap, and all in the brief moment the corridor and the ladder passed by each other. That's also a good point. They would have needed a running start while the corridor was moving to make that jump. If their timing was off, or if they couldn't jump far enough, they would have been instant death. What kind of person would attempt something like that? Stop bringing up good points, Edgeworth! It's what I do. This true culprit of yours is nothing but a figment of your imagination. Why do you always have to point out every flaw? Because we're against each other, right? This is an adversarial competition thing. Edgeworth's right. It does sound pretty insane. The culprit would have had to be someone who feels no fear, like a stuntman. But everyone feels fear on some level, right? Wait a minute. Aha! I've got it this time. I can prove that there is someone who could have used this alternative escape route. Oh, can you now? We literally just saw it. This proves the possibility of a person who could have used this alternative escape route. Where'd it go? Take that! What's that, Mr. Wright? This is a certain person's very interesting psych profile. The subject doesn't experience feelings like normal people do. In other words, this person doesn't feel happiness, sadness, or fear. Doesn't feel fear? Right! You can't be serious! Without the constraint of fear. He could easily do what an ordinary person wouldn't dare. It's our Phantom, our spy again. It only makes sense after all. How could Athena possibly have called in the bomb threat? And gotten her hands on all those bombs? I wonder if we're going to have to do, Mood Matrix on this spy at some point. That would be so scary and weird. Just as you or I could do a broad jump on the ground without the slightest fear. This subject should make a 20-foot leap 50 feet up in the air. He could choose this. Well, I'm sorry. He could use this extreme way of escaping without hesitation. So you're saying that to a person without fear, the alternative route would be quicker and eliminate the chance they'd be spotted. That's definitely pretty extreme, Mr. Wright. But was there such a person at the scene? Yes, the Phantom, that mysterious shadowy figure who keeps popping up. Oh dear. The Phantom. Again. I knew the Phantom was there behind the scenes of the Space Center bombing. I wasn't sure if he was connected to the murder of Clay Terran as well. However, now it's all clear. The Phantom is the one who not only bombed the Space Center, but also killed Mr. Terran. What? What? The person who bombed the Space Center was also the person who killed— Order the court! Order, I say! Mr. Wright, please continue! There were just too many similarities between this case and the one from 7 years ago. But why, you may ask? It can only be because both incidents were the work of the same Phantom. So then this Phantom is the one who killed Clay. But who is he? This Phantom has been haunting this case, pulling the strings in the background. Who could this unidentified international spy be? Right, this escape room must have been part of the Phantom's plan from the start. As was tricking Direct Cosmos into switching the launch pads, the bomb on the second floor was meant to make the elevators and stairs unusable. That's why he gave it advance warning and planted the bombs where he did. Yes, I think you're right. But it doesn't explain this one last thing. So I lowered my emergency ladder like the detective leading the evacuation told me to, but it was such a pain. I couldn't ever use the ladders in the other rooms. The robotics lab wasn't the only room with an emergency ladder. But he couldn't have made that leap unless he was certain which one it would be. So you mean the Phantom must be someone who knew this particular ladder was going to be used? Someone on the police! Candace Arm? But then why would Metis record Candace as a he? Who could it be? Wait a minute. So I lowered my emergency ladder like the detective leading the evacuation told me to. Miss Blackwell lowered the ladder after being told to by the detective leading the— Ah! You've got to be kidding me! Did you figure it out, right? You know who the Phantom is? It makes sense because we never met Candace, so we have no assessment of her character. Yes, I do. Who is it? Who killed Clay? Our mystery spy known as the Phantom is none other than— Wait. But Fulbright's the one who led the evacuation. Take that! After the explosions, a member of the staff crossed paths with a certain detective. I was on duty on the 4th floor. It was quite the madhouse, I tell you. As for the detective who was leading the evacuation from the 4th floor, he had a very specific objective in mind. So I lowered my emergency ladder like the detective leading the evacuation told me to. His objective was to secure his own escape route. We lowered an emergency ladder from a 4th floor window and escaped that way. Once everyone else got out safely, I made my way down too and headed to the shelter. I don't understand. It just doesn't seem like Fulbright, right? I mean, that would be the best twist. Candace seems to make more sense because she's a little more mysterious and the skin tone's closer to the video, but I mean, this is gonna be ridiculous if this is it. He feels like he's shown emotion before. I mean, I guess they're just saying he's faking it. But it seems kind of unlikely to me that it's him. Maybe that would explain why he's always hanging around Blackwell. But I have a hard time believing it. It's just so weird. Because he's such a lovably designed character that you'd have to assume they want to bring him back for a later game. Once everyone else got out safely, I made my way down too and headed to the shelter. This is a detective you all know. He's even the lead detective on the current case. He appears to be a very emotional man, but his psych profile says he's without emotion. Take that! Take that! What? Are you saying... You mean the Phantom is Detective Bowie Fulbright? Exactly. We were all taken in by his fake persona. Detective Fulbright's real identity is the Phantom. Is that... I can't believe that. Order in this court. Mr. Wright, how could this be? That's easy, Your Honor. Detective Fulbright was leading the 4th floor evacuation effort. Our first clue is that he made no attempt to have any other ladder put to use. The ladder in the robotics lab is the only one he ordered to be lowered. The second is that he directed everybody to the basement shelter via this ladder. Verily, it was all part of his plan to create an escape route. After Detective Fulbright saw to it that the ladder was lowered from the robotics lab, he went to the lounge where he killed Clay Tarrant and escaped into the Space Museum. The museum started moving, slowly, so we waited for the right op time, got a running start. And just as the corridor was passing the ladder, he leapt onto it. Now wait just a minute. I have had a number of comments of people going, "Oh, I love Fulbright, he's the best, he's really sweet." Were y'all trying to pull the wool over my eyes and keep this revelation from me? Because if so, God damn, you're brilliant! Just as the ladder was passing the corridor was passing the ladder, he leaped onto it. I don't believe it. That adult-pated detective did all that. Was it really him? I mean, all this time I thought... Sorry, we didn't catch your name? My name? Bobby Fulbright. The heroic detective who defends our good citizens from evil. The champion of justice who comes running whenever you're in need. In my catchphrase, it's in justice we trust. Then, his concern for Simon was also all just one big act, just to get close to the papers. And the recording. I swore to reform Prosecutor Blackwell and make him a valued member of society again, so I can't just sit by and watch him give into his emotions and tear the defendant apart. That monster killed Clay! He had me completely fooled! Come to think of it, he's the one who brought that bloodstained lighter to court too! That scumbag even made me turn on Athena! Damn it! How the hell did I fall for that? For him to have wormed his way into the police department as well. Your Honor, the defense demands to question Detective Bobby Fulbright. Yes, I agree that we need to hear from him right away. The court will take a short recess and then Detective Fulbright will take the stand. I'm like lightheaded. That's so bizarre. I cannot believe that, dude. Because there are a number of twists where like it's like shocking, but you're like, that falls within the realm of I could have believed that. This is so far from it. I'm still not convinced. December 20th, 5:13 p.m. District Court Defendant Lobby number 5. Thank you so much, Mr. Wright. If it wasn't for everything you did, Don't thank me yet. We still have an uphill battle to fight. You got it, boss! We got you, all 3 of us, on together, though, so we can do it. There's no way Blackwell's gonna stop us from using your bracelet now, Apollo. Habits, Moon Matrix, Magatama, we can use them all. Apollo! Oh, this is awkward. Athena, can you do me a favor? Huh? What is it? Could you punch me, please? What? Why should I do that? Look, I want Athena to punch me too, Apollo, but this is not the time. Because I should have believed in you. The seed of doubt inside me kept the best of me. I'm really sorry that I didn't trust— Ouch! Don't be such a dope! I was really touched by what you did. Huh? Now what are you talking about? I want to believe in Athena, I really do. But what is faith without doubt? That's why I need to question her guilt. So that once the truth finally comes out, I can really fully trust her. You took the time and effort to genuinely think about who I am and what I'm made of. After all of that, how can I punch a true friend like you, Apollo? Well, you just did. you didn't have any trouble slapping him a second ago. Thanks, Athena. And thanks for waking me up to reality again. Guess I know now who to call if I ever get sleepy in court. It looks like you have some promising young people working under you. Edgeworth. Yeah, I think they're pretty great myself, and they're not afraid to keep me in line. Anyway, I have some very good news. Laura Blackwell has surrendered and the hostages have been set free. Trucy and all the others? Oh, thank goodness! Miss Blackwell said she had something she really needed to do, so I granted her special permission to do what she must. I wonder what it is. Killing Fulbright, probably. Why the hell did you do that? Oh, she's over here, oh, thank God. Miss Blackwell! I didn't come to apologize if that's what you're thinking. My actions are what allowed the truth of what happened 7 years ago to come to light. I mean, I guess. But I did come to because I had something to say to all of you. Miss Order! She better not be here to complain about something. Miss Blackwell, I want to apologize to you. fact that you couldn't trust the court system is our fault. Yes, it's true that the courts are filled with incompetent idiots. Still, I suppose I could let you handle the rest of this case for me.
Oh, Miss Ora! Does that mean the Reddit is starting to trust the system again?
Yeah. No, of course not. Be quiet, hunk of junk. It's just, I wouldn't mind if you were the ones who took Mrs. Keller down. And you're not going to do it yourself? Oh, thank God.
Leave it to us. We'll get him.
So I guess that means she's starting to trust us, at least. Aura. Simon, I'm so glad both you and the princess were cleared of all suspicion. And it's all thanks to me and my robots. You better be grateful. I never imagined you would go to that far, though you always were extreme. I mean, she's not wrong. She did without her. The system just didn't allow for this kind of retrying of this in this scenario. But I don't recall ever requesting your help. As closed as ever, I see. Well, now that you've been released, I guess it's my turn to go live in the slammer. I just hope you're not the prosecutor for my trial. You'd probably give me the death penalty. I don't think the prosecutor's the one who decides that. You know me all too well. I guess love can take on a variety of expressions, including stunted in their case. But I truly was about to be executed tomorrow. Though because of you, it looks like I won't be crossing the sticks just yet. You have my heartfelt thanks, Aura. I'm sorry I caused you so much anguish. Simon. I'm so glad, Simon. So very glad to hear you say that. Aura. Alright, that's enough of that. Bailiff, take me to the detention center. What Miss Blackwell did was inexcusable, but it's clear she did it out of love for her brother. And, honestly, in some way, a sense of justice overall, because this will lead to the end of the Dark Age for the law, probably. I still can't wrap my mind around Detective Fulbright being the Phantom. I can't believe he killed Clay! Right. And murdered my mentor, which brought great distress upon little Athena. Chief Prosecutor. Yes. I would ask a favor. Would you allow me to send the prosecutor's bench for this trial? I wish to claim the Phantom's head by my own hand. That was my plan all along, after all. It's highly unconventional for a man of my position to stand in court. Sir. The formal paperwork has yet to be filed, but you are hereby conditionally released. Please take the prosecutor's bench in your official capacity, and uncover the truth by your own hand. I'm much obliged. Is he gonna shout at them? One last time, rip them apart! The day to part with these has come at last. Chief Prosecutor, could you? Oh, getting them unlocked for real, not even having to smash through them. Must be a good feeling. How long have I waited? Maybe it's the sense of freedom, but even the air seems fresher, the light brighter. He's smiling! He was actually smiling! And I will relish slashing that blackguard Fulbright to shreds without mercy! I don't have to be able to read his heart to see how happy he is.
I'm so glad, but I won't cry just yet. After all, we still got a trial to finish.
It's okay to cry, Athena, I promise. I'm damn near on verge of tears myself. Prosecutor Blackwell, Mr. Wright, please avenge Clay's death for me. What are you talking about, Apollo? You're coming to the defense's bench with me.
I am?
Well, I can't expect Athena to assist me now, can I? She's the defendant. That leaves you, Apollo. I mean, it didn't stop her from doing the mood matrix a moment ago, but... But are you sure you want me? I took a leave of absence and everything. Well, our office is pretty short-handed, and you're all I've got. Thank you, Mr. Wright. Yeah, Trucy probably needs like a 7-month nap. Apollo, Athena, I can say it with all my heart now. I believe in your complete innocence. And now we're gonna prove it to the world! Next time on Studio Destinies, because I regret to inform you that's all the time we have for this one. I was thinking I might just push and go all the way to the end, but come on, this is a perfect place to leave it on a good note. But holy balls is never tense because I imagine we won't get our health back at this point either. Oh, doggy. Oh, man. Oh, boyo. So much to think about here. So much. Come on, Paul. You and I, we can do it. Thanks for looking on the channel. Give me some more Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Thank you so very much for coming to this extremely pivotal and relieving and emotional episode. Oh, I mean, that's a slightly better bad ending than, like, Trucy having all of her bones broken by a robot. But I'm still gonna do my best not to let it happen. That's all for now. Thank you so very much for coming around. Hopefully I will see you around. Admiral's gonna be out of here now. Peace! That's crazy convenient. It probably only takes, like, 9 zonite. Yeah, cool. Getting to stand up initially is, well, you can just turn it on, can't you? And then stand up after. Oh my god! Well, first of all, this is running away. No, come back. But secondly, I think one of my friends just stabbed that wolf. There we go. Once you get it on, of course, it stands up well enough on its own. Whoops, sorry, birds. I've just run over so many...